Hi. Hi. Thank you very much for welcoming me here and feeding me and to this day. It's really amazing to be here. It's such a beautiful building, as I'm sure you all know. I'm here tonight to tell you about a product I've developed that's taken about 30 years, which is really, really good and really powerful at helping people understand who they are, what they feel, what their emotions are, what the environment around them is, how that fits together, and the role the imagination plays. And I also touch on the mind as well. The way I'm going to do this after chatting to Nac is to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm not going to go on and on unless you ask me questions, so do ask me questions if you want to know. That's absolutely fine, okay? But I'm going to keep that quite brief, and then I'll go on to the product, and then I can talk about how it can help the community in lots of different ways, and how you may want to use it to contribute to your community. So I'm very open-minded. This is the first time I've done a talk with the product as such. I've done lots of demos to organisations, and last year I have trained Mind to use it in Wales. I've trained the staff, and then I did some workshops with the service users, and I trained a rehabilitation centre, private one, in Wales too. The lead therapist is using it. And I also trained, I've trained some therapists, which I'll talk about later, earlier on last year, which is really what gave me the idea, because I didn't go into this to actually create what's happened, but because of feedback that I've had from people and because of how they've used it, it's pushed me forward to give them what they need. But it was really the therapists who said, oh, can we use this idea in our work, that took me then to the organisations. So that's all I'll say about that, unless you've got any questions. So back to me. I'm 52 years old. I'm qualified academically in economics. I did a BSc in London in political economics in Margaret Thatcher's time. I don't know if anyone remembers that.
Oh yes.
But it was a real time, wasn't it? It was a real time, and I was studying it in the City of London, actually in the City of London, and that was really interesting. And most people in them days did economics to make lots of money in a bank. But there was this course called political economics, and I wanted to examine the game of economics, and that's why I did it. I actually was supposed to be doing accounting, but they put me on the wrong course, can you believe? And then I discovered the economics. I hadn't even got an A level in it, or an O level. And after I had finished that, I was so intrigued by it, and there were some lecturers there that said, we want to show people how to understand economics from more of a sort of global game point of view, rather than just to work in a bank. And they set up a master's degree called Analytical and Critical Economics, and I majored in development. And I wrote a thesis at that time about how actually just looking at the money a country produces isn't necessarily a good indicator of happiness. And as I said, this was in the 1990s when this idea was not around. And interestingly, the two lecturers that actually put this course on, because they wanted to be able to impart this knowledge forward, it only lasted 4 years. And then they kind of got thrown out because all the other students wanted to learn how to do banking, you know. So I felt very privileged in the sense of, it wasn't difficult to get into, but I felt very privileged that there's not many people who knew that, because it was sort of stopped quite quickly. So I happened to be in that time, you know, that time in society where that was there. So anyway, so that's my academic interest, and so I did that purely and simply because I was interested in it. I had no idea about a career. I actually wanted to be an actress, and I actually did go on to do performing and all that sort of thing in the Fringe in London. But what I did to sort of pay the rent was I worked in mental health. And that proved really fascinating to me, because first of all I'd learned that economics was just a big game, and then when I got into the mental health field, I kind of had my doubts about the psychology behind that. because what seemed to be happening, because my role was normally a project manager looking at employment with people with mental health problems, disability, etc. What I found was that I had all these people who were actually really talented and really, had loads to offer, but because they had an issue, they tended to be, medicated and just go round and round in a circle. And given jobs in the employment industry, like pushing trolleys or something like that, which was just making them worse because it wasn't buying into their learning style or their talent or what they could offer. So anyway, so I did this for years and years, and I was employed mainly because I was the troubleshooter. So an organisation would employ me to change the way that their project was running. So that was about another 10 years. And by this time, with the economics and with the mental health, I'd started to see a pattern emerge. Then I moved to Wales and I went self-employed, cut long story short. And I started to use this idea I had to earn money as a business. And I started to meet people who ran their own businesses. I met acupuncturists, I met therapists, as well as the usual entrepreneurial types. And I just kind of told them what I was telling people anyway, and they all started to make money. And they started to say, well, can we use it? So that's kind of just how it evolved, really. Then I had, Neo is my third child. And when I had Neo, I couldn't really work much in this anymore. So I decided to do gardening and that sort of thing to keep myself going. And that was when I started to write things down. So I thought I have time now to write things down. So I wrote a couple of books and I started to design this power tower. And that took about 7 or 8 years. And I put it all online. I set up an online academy and I got people to go on that. I was giving interviews over Skype, this was in 2017. And I got quite a lot of people interested. And that was when the therapist started to say to me, could we use your work? So I said, okay, so I worked out how they could do that. And then, as I said, I sort of carried on doing it, then organisations got interested, etc., etc. So where I am now with it is I'm now ready to roll it out, really. But I've been fussy in the sense that I really want to keep the magic and the power of this idea with the appropriate people, rather than just selling it off to a corporate organisation, which I have been offered, but I thought no, I don't want to do that. So I'll talk about at the end how we could use it, to empower everybody, and basically look towards creating a better society by imparting knowledge, really. So what I'm going to explain to you now is, to me, it's the framework. It shows how everything fits in. It shows why meditation is good for you. It shows why working in the garden is good for you. It shows how your mind can take you over if you don't feel good, and that sort of thing. So that's all I'll say, unless anyone wants to ask me any questions.
Sorry, what's your name?
My name's Jennifer. Jennifer. My name's Jennifer.
That was an easy question.
Yeah, that's easy, Jennifer. Yeah. And I have 3 children. The other 2 are old, and one's at university doing fine art, and the other one is living with her boyfriend, working. She's a sort of normal person. And then there's Neo. I home educate Neo, and
sorry.
And at the moment, I'm living in Aylesbury, in a space where medium term, the lady who owns the land, there's a big house there and she has lodges. Medium term, she wants to open up to the community, and I'm helping her do that. And long term, she'd like to make it a community where people live as well. So, and I'm here mainly to help look after my parents who live locally. So I move, but I've still got the house in Wales. I go back every now and then. So that's that. So okay, shall we move on now?
Yeah, please.
So I shall give you a little demo of this idea then, shall I? So the thing about this is it's a physical thing. you know, when people talk about the mind and all that, normally it's sort of quite imaginary, isn't it? You know, what's an emotion? It's all up there, isn't it? But this is a physical thing. So I've got lots of bits for you, and I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of it all. I'm just going to briefly show you. So we can all have I call this the stick self. Okay, so if you want to, the Gucci bag, it is actually
Very impressive.
this is what I had a housekeeping job during the years I've been developing this, and the lady was absolutely off her head, but she's brilliant at making money. And I was her housekeeper, I kept pinching her Gucci bags. But I think it's really good because this is what people think is the answer, but actually what the solution is yourself. So it's all very conceptual. But I'm an artist, really. So
Thank you.
there you go. So well, you can take one and pass one around. So I'll briefly go through this. And all the information I'm going to tell you now is all online. It's in our books and everything. And these are all made in the back garden where I live in Wales.
Can we show them?
Yeah, of course you can. You can. Yeah.
Oh, and it is this.
Oh, that's a baby one. That's the baby stick. That's the baby stick. That's the baby stick. Okay, so again, I don't want to talk at you too much, but basically, what I say is that when you're born, you're a little baby. This is a person. This is a little baby, and all you are when you're very, very small is a human being. You know, and the human being, what they have, which is special, is a feeling. And all you have to do to keep that feeling going and to grow that potential is love and care, food, water, shelter. So that's the baby stick. Now if we do that properly, then over time our stick potential grows that big, you know. Now we can't actually grasp this unless you've got the stick, because it's not actually here, it's a potential. So by definition, it's not real, it's just what it could be. And the way to realise that potential is to understand who you are. And that's represented by the letters on here. Now, who you are, I've represented by these symbols really. And again, I can talk endlessly about any of these, but in a nutshell, the person here represents the feelings, like the baby stick, so we all have feelings, and that's our basic. And then one above that, and everyone's the same there, so everyone is that. So when people say, well, everyone's the same, that's what they mean. We're all human beings. We all need this. We all need this field. But apart from that, up here, this is all different, and this is how we're all unique people. So the T stands for talent. It's your talent. And this is something that you probably don't even know you have, because you will think it's normal. And you will think, well, why can't everyone else do this? You know? But actually, only you can. You are the person who's really good at that. So if people think about their talent, they often think about a skill. But it's deeper than a skill. It's your ability to recognise a pattern, or maybe it's your ability to empathise with a person. You know, it's a very, very deep thing. It's one above your field. The next one up is a P. That stands for your preference. What you prefer to do. Do you prefer to be indoors, outdoors? Do you prefer to work with people, animals? What do you prefer? Do you like apples or bananas? Next one above this is your learning style. How do you learn? Everyone learns differently. Some people like to listen, some people like to write, some people like to be shown. Next one above that is KN, is your knowledge. And this includes your experience of life. This includes what you know. And you know when you know something, you just know it. That's where that fits in. And it can be education, it can be, but more importantly, it's what you've learned in your life that's important. Even if it's been a bad experience, because it's still valid, it's still important, and it's still part of your potential if you know how to use it. Okay? So that's really, well, all important, but that's really key. And the last part is, I said this physical, it's like, can you do it? And it can be simple things like, can I get to the shop? Can I get the bus? Can I make the tea? But it's also where the mind fits in, because if you have a negative mindset, you can't do anything, can you? Doesn't matter how good all that is. If your mind says, well, actually, no, we're not doing that, then that's that. So we'll talk about that more later. But this is basically what everyone has. It's the pattern. It's the way we are designed to be. And most people don't know what that is. And as I'm sure you're familiar with who you are bounding around randomly all the time. But actually who you are can be defined as that. Now, if you don't know this, if you don't know who you are, you kind of are like a wobbly stick. I call it a wobbly stick. And what I often do is I get people to try and get their sticks to stand up. So I don't know if you want to try that. But sometimes you can, actually. And I did a workshop in mind, and to my surprise, one man balanced it upside down. So you can do it, you can balance it, but often it falls down. And what people often do is that if they don't know this, then in order to get a sense of something, they'll latch on to something else. And that's normally through the mind. That's normally your role, your status, how much money you've got, what your job is, okay? Nothing wrong with that. But people often stick to that because that's who they are, because they don't know who they are. And then the problem with that, though, is that when that finishes, when that stops, sometimes they define it as their relationship. When that goes, what happens is they have nothing to fall into, so they crash, yeah? So if you know this, it's really helpful to build up your strength and your resilience. You can still have a fantastic job, but you'll have a job that's in line with your T's and P's. And if it's in line with your talents and your preferences, you'll do well and you'll be able to stand up. So what I then say, if everyone's sort of fairly happy about this, what I then say is, in order to be able to manifest your potential and not fall over, is if you become conscious of it. Now if you imagine this circle here, and I'm going to put some more here with it on, if you imagine that circle there represents how conscious you are of your stick self, you can stand there by yourself, yeah? And you can stand there and you can start to create your potential on your terms in a kind and humble way, so you become more powerful. So you're not trying to stick onto something and then falling when it doesn't work. So this represents how conscious you are, okay? Now I have lots in here. So what is missing though is that, so we have our stick self-potential and we have our consciousness, yeah? People do want to talk about this. But it's still not manifested in this 3D world of form, yeah, of a physical mass. It's still an idea, it's still a conceptual thing. So the way that the information that your stick self carries is brought into this world, I say, can be represented by the circles, which could be called your feelings. Okay? So if you want to all, you can have one here, and I'll go through. You can have one there, maybe. Yeah. And again, this is just based on observation over 30 years, really, of what people need. And has anyone heard of Maslow? Yeah, it's a little bit Maslow, a little bit like that. So basically, in order to actualize your potential to feel as a human being, we need the 3 feels here. One is health. This doesn't mean good health. It means you're not in pain. Okay, so it just means to be okay. So if you want to hand that round. If you have that, you feel that good. You feel that good. Another one here is love and care. Am I receiving love and care? And another one here is, do I feel safe? Do I feel safe? And if you have them, that's how good you feel. And if you want to pass them around, you'll see that weight, that's how good you feel. If you don't have them, that's how bad you feel as well. That's how bad you feel. And often people used to say to me, mental health is, oh, I don't know why I feel like this. But once you break it down with them, do they feel safe? No. Are they getting love and care around them? No. Are they in pain? Yes, I've got a headache. Well, that's how bad you feel. That's where those bad feels are coming from. So it's, and they go, oh yeah, I feel that bad. That's how bad I feel. So it's a really good way to show someone how that they feel like that. And if it's a plus, yeah, they're in your, I don't know if you can take yours. They are there, there's your, that's your, so that's how good you feel. And that's how good you feel there. And if you notice, hi.
Hello.
And if you notice, if you do have those plus, I call them a plus feel, what happens is, and I find this a bit of a magic really. Do you mind? Yeah, great, thank you. Thanks. If you have these, so if you have these, and I'm in an environment like at the moment I'm having plus feels with, oops, I nearly had a minus there for safety. But if I have plus feels here, what happens is my innate potential to be a feeling human being is protected because my little stick man is safe. He's in my feels. So because I feel safe, I feel good enough, I can show that. I can show that. So I start to have a form. So if I feel good, I can show you I feel good. So these circles represent how you can create this in your life. They actually make it happen, have an action to it, rather than just a thought, you know? So if someone doesn't have these as well, and I'll talk about this in a minute, if they don't have these, then they'll probably be on some sort of medication, because you can't really live without these in a way. And I call them, because they're this important, your animal power needs, which is where it's a little bit Maslow. So that's your animal power needs, and everyone needs them to function as a human being with feels. And I'm sure, as you will know, in society today, most people don't feel safe. Love and care has gone out the window, and everyone's taking paracetamol because they're in pain, which is why people have an inability to feel, because you can't get there, because it's not safe. So your brain won't let you get there, and then your mind takes over, which we'll talk about later. But this is how it could be. This is how big it could be. So this is how strong you can feel. Kind of, I say this is like in your gut. This is your gut feels. Okay. The next four is all about what I call your T's and P's, your talent and your preference. So if you're in an environment where your talent, so I'll ask you some questions now. So who enjoys being in the garden with flowers? Who's good at that?
Yes,
There you go. So your talent, what would you say you're particularly good at, that you feel you're really good at as a talent?
What, in terms of gardening
Yes.
and so on, you mean? Yeah, I think I look after plants well.
So you're
in
very
my
good at
garden.
nurturing plants.
I think so.
You're looking after them. I'm sure you are. You just know so. You just know so. That's your talent. So that's really, you're really good at. And what sort of flower do you prefer to be around? What sort of, do you like vegetables or evergreens or?
I do like vegetables, but I really like to encourage plants that are good for bees and insects.
Great. So that's your preference. Okay. Now, so remind me of your name.
Kate.
Kate. So okay. So if I said to you, okay, Kate, today you're on the bee plants, nurturing them, you would get plus feels of meaning and purpose because they're your talent. So you think, right, I am going to get up this morning because I know what I'm going to do, and I know I can express my tea in my real world, in my reality, and I can make that happen. That can become an action. And if I saw you out there doing it, you'd probably feel quite good because your identity of I am the bee flower lady is coming out, and you're really pleased to be seen like that. And you'll feel like you belong because I'd go up to you, and probably you'd go up to you, and you'd go up to you saying, oh, I love your bee flower nurturing skill. You know, I love that. So you feel like you belong, wouldn't you? So that's how good you feel if what you're doing in your life is in line with your T's and P's. And that's also why if people have a job, because I say a job simply because that's what people spend most of their time doing. It doesn't have to be a job, you know, it can be anything. It's what you do in your day, what you spend your time on, yeah? If you don't have these, people don't have this sense. And then, again, I'll talk about it later, but then the mind takes over and you do it because of a status or because of money or because of the nice house you can buy with the money. You don't have that from you. You're looking for outside approval. I call it mind energy, outside energy coming in, so you think you're okay. rather than knowing that you are okay and good because you have that in yourself. And if you get money from it, great. If I gave you, hey, it was 20 quid for looking after my bee flowers, I call that a frilly. You know, it's a bonus, it's a frilly, isn't it? But you don't really need it because you're okay anyway. So that's your T's and P's. And that's how good you feel. So they're quite strong, they're quite big. And I call them your human power needs. It's how you can show how you're a human on this earth doing your purpose and having meaning, yeah? So that's that. And then the next two are smaller. One of them, LS, learning style, is not just your stick self, the learning style is also in your environment. So if you're all happy me talking and I'm talking, my learning style's okay and my environment is okay. So we all can learn from each other, yeah? So that's that one. And then the next one is, okay, because I have all these, and I'm feeling good, I can express my knowledge. I can feel like I'm expressing myself, giving you my knowledge. So that's making me feel that good too. So now I'm feeling really strong here. And then the last one, this is ends the industry, is ability. Can you do it? Can you do it? Now, if I can, so if you can do your bees, what does someone else do here that gives them all that, would you say? Does someone volunteer what they do here? Which gives them meaning, purpose, belonging and identity.
Just joked. Sorry, can I take a movie?
If you like, yeah, of course you can.
Okay.
What do you do here?
I would like to participate in the project because it's very interesting, and
yes,
I like to do an introspection.
Okay.
Of it's interesting for me.
What did you do today? What activities did you do today?
I was in the garden.
Okay, great.
And I washing up with.
Okay, good,
and,
good.
It was a very good day.
Very good day.
Yeah.
Excellent. So you had belonging. You felt like you belonged. You belonged to everyone. You liked
Yes.
being here because
Yes.
it represents who you are, what you're interested in, and you can do it. Did you succeed? Did you do your washing up? Yes. Right. Excellent. So you can do it. So your mind was okay. You can do it. Now, that's how big that is. And I want to quickly pass this one. Well, you've got one there. If you get your ability one, if you feel your ability one. So this is, there you go. This is, can you do it? Now, in this society, what is the focus in work? Sometimes in relationships, and generally speaking, education and everything, is can you do it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you can do it, you do get a feel, but it's only that big. And if it's at the cost of that, and you can physically feel it, that's why people feel bad, because they can do it, and they do get lots of approval and energy from outside. But if they've not got that, and I can visually show you this in a minute, they're focusing on that, so they're feeling that good, but at the cost of that. And if you see how the difference there, that's why people who are successful might have lots of that, and they're rewarded by society endlessly, you know, with money and big cars, but they don't feel anything because they haven't got any of them. And this is often why people have nervous breakdowns when they're successful, basically. So this is where work and the education system focuses. And I said there's nothing wrong with that because it is a field, but it's a very small field in compared to that. Okay, so the best state of being is so you have your fields here and you feel this strong, and it makes you very resilient and you can stand up. So when things do go a little bit upside down, you can still stand. You can still stand. And when this happens, something magical happens as well. Not only does the information that you're carrying, that only you have, because if you think about it, only you has your knowledge, only you has your learning style, only you have your T's and P's. Only you are in that environment at the moment because everyone else is in a different environment. So it's only you who can do that. So if you've got good fields and you have this data in you,